Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online series 2 VGC ladder in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and provide live commentary as I go. In this video, I'm going to be trying out a team that recently reached rank number 1 on the ladder, featuring Maushold and Annihilape. This combination was quite common throughout Series 1, but I feel like its usage has actually fallen off a little bit in Series 2, and I think it's still very, very powerful, and this team showcases just how powerful that combination can be. The general idea, of course, is to use support Maushold with Friend Guard and Beat Up to enable multiple Rage Fist stacks on Annihilape, and Annihilape is able to just deal large amounts of damage immediately during the start of the battle. The team also has some fun Paradox Pokemon, especially Great Tusk, which I have not tried on the channel yet, and so yeah, as always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps down in the description below, and thank you so much as always for joining me. If you enjoy, I would really appreciate it if you consider leaving a like on the video or subscribing to the channel. Really helps out a ton. Anyway, thanks as always for watching, and let's get started. Diving into the team now, first of all, a huge thank you to Hoj for building and sharing this team. I actually featured one of his rank number 1 Annihilape teams way back at the beginning of Scarlet and Violet, so it's really cool to see him continue to use Annihilape in a very different format here. So I've linked his Twitter down in the description below. You can see here he was able to reach rank number 1 with a really incredible win rate, 59 wins and 18 losses, and here is the team with the rental code here as well, and of course it'll be in the description below. And so yeah, let's break down the team. Getting into the team now, as always, rental and paste are down in the description below if you want to try it out yourself. And question of the day, as you may be able to tell, I love music, as you can see from all the different album covers I have back there. I want to know what your favorite song at the moment is. I recently really got into Radiohead after not listening to them for a long time, and Jigsaw Falling Into Place is a song that I've really had on repeat in the last month. But always looking for new music and new artists, so let me know yours down in the comment section below. So, to talk about this team, I really want to first focus on Annihilape. Now, bulk up Annihilape with, this Rage Fist combination with Maushold is a strategy that's existed since the beginning of Series 1. However, there are a couple of small things that make this really stand out. First of all, this Annihilape is basically max attack and near max speed. That's a huge deviation from how a lot of people run this combo, because a lot of other people will run a ton of HP and special defense and defense investment, actually often foregoing a ton of investment attack and speed. And so the EV spread is actually basically like the complete opposite of what players expect when they fight this specific duo. And part of the theory behind the bulky EV spread is that, well, you have so much sustain between leftovers, which is the normal item, as well as Drain Punch, and Maushold, of course, is going to stack up the Rage Fist fairly quickly. What I love about this is it just basically packs a much stronger punch, no pun, or maybe one pun intended there, relative to your opponents, right? And so the basic deal is that you can deal so much more damage and often get big one-hit knockouts with the +4 Rage Fist when your opponents aren't expecting it, right? And that's really, really nice. Citrus Berry exists on the Annihilape to just basically get some burst recovery rather than like slowly sustaining with leftovers. And part of, I think, this Annihilape is that it's designed to win games a little bit quicker, and so having an immediate burst in recovery can be a little bit more valuable, especially since the Annihilape just doesn't really have any bulk here. And so I think it's really smart. I think because you're basically taking a conventional strategy. People expect Annihilape to be super bulky. You take all the bulk away and essentially just attack really heavily and invest heavily in attack. And the other thing is with Friend Guard from Maushold, Annihilape can still take a lot of damage fairly well, and it's got just great overall stats: base 110 HP and 80 defense, 90 special defense. Steel Terra here. There are a lot of different Terras you can use for Annihilape, but it helps out obviously against Golden Go and can be really valuable into some other Pokemon and types as well. Maushold here exists to mainly get the beat up off onto Annihilape. You have enough EVs here where you still outspeed your Annihilape, which obviously is really critical by 1 speed point, and it's mainly designed to beat up into Annihilape. But you have Safety Goggles plus the Follow Me, which is really good against Amoonguss and Brute Bonnet, and then Baby Doll Eyes to help out against opposing physical attackers. Baby Doll Eyes is just a really nice attack, as it's just, lowers your opponent's attack by 1, and it has priority as well. So Maushold and Annihilape is kind of the go-to with this team, as you may imagine. It's a really strong lead combination, and if your opponent doesn't have a great answer, like, threatening this with super effective damage, or a status condition, for example, or just dealing a lot of damage before it moves, often you can just get a beat up off and start Rage Fisting immediately, and with how much attack investment this has, you'll be able to just pick up knockouts very quickly. To round out the team, you've got Focus Sash Great Tusk. This is just one of the strongest Paradox Pokemon in terms of pure damage output. A lot of different items that you can run on this. I've seen Life Orb, for example. I've seen Salt Vest. I've seen Clear Amulet even. But Focus Sash is just kind of nice to guarantee consistent damage and get multiple hits off often with this Pokemon. Fairly standard moveset here. You've got Assault Vest Arcanine. This Arcanine's actually really bulky. As you can see, it doesn't have any attack investment, but it's still got a lot of speed investment, 139, which means you're just as fast as your Maushold here. Grass Terra, which is mainly helpful against things like Amoonguss and Brute Bonnet, but also against Water-type Pokemon such as Palafin, for example. And you just have a general utility moveset of Snarl, Flare Blitz, Extreme Speed, and Play Rough. Play Rough's the one to call out here. You don't really obviously often see it on Arcanine, but it can give you surprise super effective damage into things that otherwise wouldn't expect it. So that's kind of cool. And then to round out the team, you've got Iron Bundle. This is just a classic timid booster energy set with max speed, and the idea is to use this for speed control. You don't always have to go Maushold Annihilape, for example. Iron Bundle synergizes really nicely with Great Tusk or Flutter Mane as leads in particular, where you can just Icy Wind, drop your opponent's speed, and then get big KOs with both of these Pokemon. As you'll notice, this Flutter Mane is actually kind of slow. It's a really bulky Flutter Mane with base, or 148 HP EVs and 84 special defense EVs as well, and so as a result, you don't actually have that much speed investment, and so the general idea is that the Iron Bundle can Icy Wind, and then the Flutter Mane can deal more damage while also still outspeeding your opponent, right? Because a lot of people will just run like max speed, max special attack, and 4 gold to bulk. Since you have such a fast Icy Wind user, you're able to drop your opponent's speed as a result, invest a little bit more in bulk, and use Life Orb rather than Focus Sash as the item. So Iron Bundle with Great Tusk and Iron Bundle and Flutter Manes are certainly leads you should consider as well, especially if your opponent doesn't have like great immediate speed control like Tailwind or Trick Room to deal with that. Speaking of Trick Room, Flutter Mane exists here, has Trick Room and Imprison to help out against opposing Trick Room teams, and so yeah, Trick Room, especially from something like Indeedee and Arm Rouge, can be problematic, and that's why it's kind of a bulkier set with, you know, both the combination of Trick Room and Imprison. So, in my experience, general ways to play with the team, you obviously could lead Maushold Annihilape, you can lead Iron Bundle with one of Great Tusk or Flutter Mane. Those kind of are like the default molds that I played with, but obviously you could go with Arcanine with like Annihilape, Arcanine with Great Tusk, Arcanine with Flutter Mane. Against Trick Room teams, in particular, I'll go like Flutter Mane for sure, and then one often of the Great Tusk or the Arcanine, but Maushold in very occasional situations as well. So, yeah, that's a quick breakdown of the team. Let's highlight some weaknesses. So in terms of things that I've run into that have given me trouble, the first one definitely still is Trick Room. There is Trick Room and Imprison on this Flutter Mane, and so that's kind of one of the answers to it. Like against Trick Room teams, I'll often lead Flutter Mane and Arcanine and Imprison plus Snarl on turn 1, but if your opponent has seen this team and knows about Trick Room plus Imprison, they straight up might just not click Trick Room immediately and try to just deal a lot of damage, if not KO Flutter Mane, and that can obviously cause some problems. I've also had games where my opponents like conserve their Trick Room well, so they don't set it up early, knock out Flutter Mane, and then set up Trick Room later on, especially on teams that don't necessarily need to rely on it on turn 1 in order to kind of win the game and set the pace of the battle. And so you do have a really solid answer here with Trick Room and Imprison, but since Flutter Mane is so frail, even with HP EVs, it's still not like a guaranteed win against opposing Trick Room teams. So that's one thing to watch out for. I think Maushold also obviously is not max speed here, and so I've had games where like my opponents just double up onto Maushold before I even get a beat up off, and then Annihilape just doesn't have any Rage Fist stacks, and it's looking a lot sadder. I've also had games where my opponents kind of take advantage of the lack of bulk onto Annihilape and double up into it, and it actually ends up getting a KO. So if you're used to playing with bulky Annihilape, be a little bit careful when using this team, because that was something that I ran into where I was like, oh, it should take this, you know, double up, right? And then it doesn't, because it just doesn't really have any bulk. And so that's one thing to keep in mind. Yeah, you have Friend Guard support, but you can still take a lot of damage. Maushold also kind of suffers from the problem where it becomes really passive after you kind of accomplish what you've wanted it to do, especially if like Maushold doesn't have Annihilape on the field. Like beat up just has a lot less value. Baby Eyes is helpful, but you're not really getting too much off with it overall in the grand scheme of things, other than mainly breaking through sashes and of course, you know, activating the Rage Fist stacks here. And so you have to be a little bit careful about Maushold, right? There are sometimes times where maybe you have Maushold next to one of your Pokemon, but like your combo isn't threatening for a one-hit knockout on the opposing side, and the opposing side has a lot more damage. Also with Maushold, you kind of run the risk of your opponent potentially setting up in front of it, because it just can't do very much. You're often forced to just go for follow me or switch out, and so be careful of like setup-oriented strategies, because I think that can be really scary as well. Also, one thing to note is you'll look at the team, right? There really aren't that many answers into just really powerful ground-type attacks, and so spread Earthquakes, for example, and just powerful ground-type Pokemon can be fairly scary, and, you know, Golden Go, there are answers against, but I actually had a game where I ran into, like, Max Speed Golden Go with Nasty Plot with Amoonguss support. They were able to, like, position super well, get a Nasty Plot off with Golden Go, and then kind of just keep clicking Make It Rain, and yeah, like Make It Rain kind of just demolished like the Iron Bundle and the Flutter Mane that I had in back. And since the Arcanine here wasn't max attack, I wasn't like guaranteed a KO onto Golden Go as well, so be a little bit careful about that. Obviously you have multiple Golden Go answers with Great Tusk, of course with the Headlong Rush, as well as Arcanine with Flare Blitz and Snarl, and Shadow Ball from Flutter Mane, but that doesn't mean it's just a guaranteed win, especially when they have good support such as an Amoonguss or a Redirection user. So yeah, those are just a couple of the things that I've run into that have given me trouble, but let's get started with these battles. Alright, we've got an opposing Maushold, Roaring Moon, Iron Hands, Garganackle, Fluttermane, and Iron Bundle. So with this team, I always first ask, Maushold, Annihilape, how are we looking here with this lead? I don't think it's bad. I do wonder if I should consider Iron Bundle here, given how fast-paced their team is, because I can Icy Wind immediately with it. Like, I think Bundle and Fluttermane, for example, can be really strong. I'm just worried about a Bundle Fluttermane lead from their end. So we could approach this in two very different ways, but I'm down for the Maushold Annihilape lead here. Arcanine in the back for Intimidate plus Assault Vest. It's interesting, like, I could go Bundle as the last one for Icy Wind speed control, which I think is pretty valuable next to the Annihilape. But I think Tusk is also really worth considering here because of Focus Sash. I can get a huge, like, super effective attack off likely into something. I'll go with Bundle here, but I think Bundle is actually maybe a little bit riskier of a pick relative to Tusk. It just depends on the speed control that they have on their side of the field. So, like, I'm also curious if they potentially have, like, Tailwind Booster Energy on the Roaring Moon. That would be fine to run into. Like, I am playing a Maushold Annihilape-centric game in this one, basically. They're going to go with Bundle plus Fluttermane. My first question is, do either of these Pokemon have Booster Energy? The answer is no. So what Pokemon has the Focus Sash, then, is the other question. This is an interesting position. I could just steal Terra, beat up Rage Fist. Okay, let's go for it. I'm going to target Bundle down. And the reason I'm targeting Bundle down is because I have Arcanine, and that's the biggest threat to my Arcanine on my opponent's team. I'm making the guess that Bundle doesn't have Sash. I don't know, it's really hard to tell here. I feel like if anything, actually it makes more sense for Fluttermane to have Life Orb Respects and then Bundle to have Sash. Wow, they actually Icy Wind into Defiant. Okay. I mean, I'll take it. Annihilape is now looking so strong already. They just Dazzling Gleam, sure. Yeah, I mean, that play essentially makes sense if you don't expect Terror on turn 1, right? But to be honest, with Friend Guard, I'm not sure that was even going to get the knockout. But I'll gladly take it. Okay, Annihilape gets stacked up. I could have gone for Drain Punch here. I just wanted to try to get a one-hit knockout onto the Iron Bundle if it weren't Sash, because then Arcanine's looking really good. Nice, that did not have Sash. Okay, that's so big for me. That turn 1 could not have played out any better, honestly. The fact that they clicked Icy Wind into Defiant is huge. And that's one of the nice things about this Annihilape, right? Like, you get so much value out of opposing stat drops. And there's a lot of Snarl, a lot of Icy Wind in the format right now, and so if your opponents aren't careful, they can just walk straight into this, for example. Okay, Roaring Moon comes out, Photosynthesis gives it a attack boost. Okay, that's fine. I'm actually going to Protect here this turn and then Baby Doll Eyes into Roaring Moon, then switch Maushold out into Arcanine, and then probably Drain Punch Roaring Moon next turn. Roaring Moon might Terra here, so if it Terras, then I would consider Rage Fisting instead of Drain Punching. We'll also see if the Maushold survives the turn. Fluttermane protects, beautiful. This is where having Baby Doll Eyes I think is really cool. Ah, they actually just double protect. Okay. Smart play. Basically, I think like Earthquake from Roaring Moon makes a lot of sense right now, which is a little bit scary. But with Friend Guard, I would expect to survive. With both, honestly. +2 attack. Bundle Arcanine's really strong this endgame as well. I could Baby Doll Eyes again. I'm just worried they actually click Shadow Ball here. And if you Earthquake, you'd have to hit your own Fluttermane as well. It could be Flying Terra Roaring Moon, so I'm okay clicking Rage Fist into Roaring Moon and going for Follow Me here. Okay, they didn't Terra. I guess my question is whether or not Rage Fist gets the knockout. I guess we'll find out. Mystical Fire. You don't see that frequently. That's cool. And just Throat Chop. Cool. I'll take that trade. Although, obviously, I missed out on the opportunity to get a Drain Punch off there. I wanted to cover for Flying Terra, and this isn't too bad because it's a free switch into Arcanine. Rage Fist should still do a ton. I mean, I'm stacked up plus 2 attack. Yeah, that actually just KOs. Oh, that is so strong. And the beautiful thing is now I can go into Iron Bundle and just Icy Wind. That's the thing with this combo, right? If you have one kind of bad turn against it, it can just overwhelm you immediately. So Garganacl comes out. That's fine. This isn't over yet because they could obviously Wide Guard into Shadow Ball. And Terra Garganacl. But with Arcanine in the back, I feel pretty good about this positioning. So I'm actually just going to Rage Fist into Flutter Mane and Hydro Pump into Garganacl. What? They didn't Terra or Wide Guard there. But Garganacl survives. Whoa. And they miss to go Fire onto Annihilape, which actually will activate Defiant once again. Yeah, without a Life Orb or a Choice Specs, the damage output from that's honestly just kind of underwhelming right now. The lack of a Terra here was really surprising on really either Pokemon. Rage Fist and Flutter Mane. There's the Focus Sash. I could have gone Icy Wind, by the way, but basically I was worried about them clicking Wide Guard and then the Flutter Mane doing enough to actually one-shot the Annihilape. But at this point, the game should be over. That's why I was thinking if you at least Terra Garganacl here, you take less damage from Hydro Pump, right? Actually, with the defensive Terra, Garganacl could still win, huh? 60 down to 13. Okay. So what we do here is, since we should expect a defensive Terra, that we should expect them to protect as well, let's actually pivot out into Arcanine, and then just Freeze Dry into Flutter Mane. We know that the Iron Bundle's faster than Flutter Mane, and at this point, like, a Rage Fist should just KO Garganacl, even if I give up my attack boost, because it took so much damage. Citrus Berry was really nice here, right? It allowed me to heal back immediately. But Annihilape was just an absolute monster in this game. The fact we got a one-hit knockout onto the Roaring Moon. It's nuts. Garganacl does, I think, make a lot of sense for them, but it came out kind of too late in this battle, basically. So, yeah, Freeze Dry picks up a KO onto the Flutter Mane. Very nice. And they click Recover. That's fine. No matter what defensive Terror at this point, I think we can win 3v1. Might take a little bit of time, but I think switching there was always kind of the correct play. Yeah, I am just going to click Flare Blitz here and Hydro Pump. Okay, Garganacl protects, yeah. The most common Terras seem Poison, Ghost. Either way, like, essentially what I'm going to wait for is for Garganacl to essentially knock something out, bring out Annihilape, and then just click Rage Fist. And no matter what you defensively Terra into, like, the thing is, it has to go between Soul Cure and Recover, right? So, Flare Blitz and Hydro Pump. And they don't Terra. Interesting. Okay, well, with that, Iron Bundle just gets the KO. They didn't Terra this entire game. I feel like they definitely had opportunities to, mainly with Garganacl, I feel like, but we did build up a pretty early lead, and Annihilape just kind of demolished that entire matchup, but it helped that, obviously, the Defiant was activated so early on in this battle. So that's the thing, right? Like, with so much Icy Wind, so many Snarl, so many Intimidates running around in the format, Annihilape can very quickly get an attack boost and then just run over the game with it. And this turn one just gave me a huge advantage. Especially since, yeah, like, I think Icy Wind plus Dazzling Gleam wouldn't have really knocked us out anyway, but Annihilape plus Maushold was just a safe lead, since it was really defensive with Friend Guard and Maushold being as bulky as it is, and we have the Arcanine pivot for Intimidate as well. So, yeah, that's why this duo is still super, super strong. There is an Iron Valiant on the opposing side. Very cool. Huh. I don't know how I want to approach this one. I'm thinking Bundle plus Flutter Mane. I mean, how good is Maushold plus Annihilape here? Honestly, it's still really solid. Especially with Steel Terror on this. I think I want this trio once again. I mean, Bundle late game is really solid, right? I feel like Icy Wind's speed control for Annihilape is really nice. So, I'm actually going to go with the same 4. I think Great Tusk can be incredible here as well. And Flutter Mane's not half bad, but they do have a fair amount of Pokemon that can take special attacks. Like Volcarona, Sylveon. And I think, like, with this team, we have a really offensive trio between Flutter Mane, Iron Bundle, and Great Tusk. So I could very easily go with that combo for a lot of these matches. But I do think that Annihilape can snowball so quickly. And if you look at my opponent's team, like, they're fairly defensive, but a beat up into just a Rage Fist immediately on turn 1, I think we'll start getting quick knockouts. So let's see what they go with. I'm mainly interested, like, Gyarados is a Pokemon that I've seen pop up a little bit recently. Volcarona and Glimmora. Okay. Yeah, I think the question with this is always okay, Air Balloon. Air Balloon, that's really interesting. Are you Will-O-Wisp Volcarona? Because I see Quiver Dance so frequently. Because I'd like to just go for beat up into Rage Fist. I'm down. Let's try it. It's a little bit risky because they could Will-O-Wisp, but I think if you're from my opponent's end, obviously the Maushold could just go for... Oh, I think Quiver Dance. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to punish. Because I feel like Quiver Dance has just popped up so much more recently. And with this, I should just get a one-hit knockout, honestly. What is with my opponent just activating Defiant for me today? That was actually a really cool play, though, because if I went for... Actually, no, if I went for Follow Me, it would have just gotten redirected into Maushold. Yeah, so... We should just get the KO onto Volcarona immediately here. But I would not have guessed had 2 Defiant activations on turn 1 of the battle. Back-to-back games. Focus Sash Volk, though! Whoa. Ooh. Hold on. Okay. That makes this very interesting. If I'm my opponent right now, I'm protecting Volcarona and Acid Spraying into Maushold. So I'd like to double protect right now. I could also just get rid of it. Like, it feels so bad to get rid of the Defiant boost, but the fact that we already stacked up Rage Fist means it's fairly easy to switch an Arcanine here. Yeah, I'm down for that, especially with the Salt Vest and Friend Guard. Sash Volcarona, though, really cool. I think without Sash, this game is just so disastrous for my opponent, but the Sash keeps them in here, especially because you can make the Protect play here. You could also make a hard read on Arcanine switching in here and potentially double up onto it. That would be wild. And Volcarona isn't protecting. Okay, so might just be clicking Heat Wave. They actually went for Giga Drain. Okay. Double up onto the mouse. That actually makes sense, because I was thinking about Protect Maushold, and, Protect Annihilape and beat up into Volcarona. Volcarona should protect now. But if I get greedy and I click Follow Me and they Giga Drain, it's actually pretty bad, so I'll just make the safe Follow Me play here. Volcarona should protect. I'm not willing to make the read, though. I'm still going to click Extreme Speed. Okay, they switched. That's also fine. Gyarados. What an interesting game. Air Balloon Glimmora. Focus Sash Volcarona. Okay. Power Gem, Acid Spray. I fear this is also Dragon Dance Gyarados, but we have Baby Doll Eyes. I'm happy to Baby Doll Eyes switch back out into Annihilape. Because the thing is, Annihilape is stacked up right now, right? So, like, Rage Fist should start just picking up one-hit knockouts. And Friend Guard and getting the Gyarados down to -1 is already pretty good. Maybe they click Power Gem into the Arcanine slot. We'll resist that as well. So I feel generally pretty safe about this. This team is really interesting to me, though, because I have not really run into Focus Sash Volks that often. I'm also curious if it has Protect, given their switch. But Quiver Dance, Giga Drain, Heat Wave, and Protect makes total sense as a moveset. Meanwhile, for Glimmora, we saw Air Balloon. So I'm curious if they have Like, I would expect Earthquake potentially on their Gyarados. Could have been interesting to Extreme Speed the Glamora to get rid of Balloon. But I also think they might click, like, Dragon Dance here. Okay, Acid Spray into Maushold. That's fine. Just Waterfall. Yeah, that's okay. It's not dent us for too much. Cool. Now what do I want to do? Bulk Up isn't really super safe here. Power Gem into this is fairly safe. I don't mind a Protect into a Drain Punch, quite frankly. But I think we maybe just want to start Rage Fisting as well. I actually don't hate the idea of just Beat Up in a Gyarados. I could see that switching up back into Volcarona. And then Rage Fist into Glamora. Okay, they just Acid Spray into Annihilape. That's fine. Yep, Defiant gets activated. This is where Drain Punch would have been nice, but I didn't want to go for that without knowing what they were, you know, trying to opt for here. But Baby Eyes on the Maushold was really nice because a single attack drop on these physical attackers goes such a long way. And at these point, like, these Rage Fists are just so strong, right? Cool. Now, the downside is obviously Toxic Debris activating, but I don't really have too many ways around that, and I do want to get rid of Glamora because it has just been kind of annoying. Or has been annoying. Ooh, Thunder Wave is actually pretty scary here. Okay. I could have gone for Follow Me then. I was kind of thinking Gyarados would switch out into Volcarona. I wanted to see if I could get the knockout onto that, but it's okay. The Poison makes things pretty interesting here, though. You can beat up into the Volcarona slot and then just switch out into Arcanine. It's just that I'm at -2 special defense. I don't love the idea of eating up damage. Arcanine is going to eat the poison, but it's a -2 attack Gyarados. And we have Assault Vest, and Volcarona doesn't have any boosts. So I'm not that scared of it. And if Volcarona doesn't protect here and I get the knockout onto it with beat up, then my opponent's stuck in with the -2 Gyarados for the rest of the game. Well, it actually does KO Maushold, though, impressively. Okay. That's fine, though. Yeah, no Waterfall. Cool. Now I can just go back out into Annihilape. And the interesting thing is, because of the paralysis, Annihilape now is not going to eat up any damage from, poison. I'm happy to Rage Fist into Gyarados. Gyarados should Waterfall into Bundle here. So I'm going to actually switch Bundle in. If I'm my opponent, I'm considering protecting or switching the Volcarona as I KO the Arcanine slot. And if they do that and I bring out Bundle, then I can just, you know, KO Volcarona next turn. I honestly really thought I had a chance of surviving with Maushold there. Because if Maushold survives, then Beat Up just KOs the Volcarona, and Waterfall does less damage to Arcanine thanks to Friend Guard. It's really the Thunder Wave that I think changed things a little bit here, because now I'm worried about paralysis at any point. And the poison is actually quite scary as well. Okay. My main question here is, did Volcarona protect, right? Because, like, otherwise you'd be at risk of just eating up a double knockout. But they actually just went for Giga Drain. Wow, impressive. Okay. I mean, it's still fine, because I have Citrus Berry, so I'll heal all the way back up. But I thought this turn was a little bit risky for my opponent to make, because I totally could have just gone Extreme Speed plus Rage Fist and pick up a double knockout. They went for Taunt, that's fine. Okay, Rage Fist should get another knockout here. Like, it almost makes me wonder whether or not they even have Protect on Volcarona, because that's two different times I thought they had the opportunity to Protect and they didn't go for. And they knew I had Extreme Speed as well. I was thinking Iron Valiant as their last Pokemon makes the most sense here. Oh, but that's Sylveon. Huh, interesting. I still haven't even Terra'd yet, so Terra Steel's obviously really good here. Yeah, can't I just Terra Steel here, Rage Fist into Sylveon, and... It's Focus Sash for Volcarona, and it's probably max special attack. I really think Freeze Drive gets the KO here. I don't want to risk missing Hydro Pump. Okay, let's see. Annihilape's been a monster for us so far in this game, but I regret letting it get paralyzed earlier. Okay, no protects, no Terras. Freeze Dry. Beautiful. That should end the game. Distinct lack of Terras throughout today, I have to say. Actually, if I get full para'd and then it's Fire Terra Sylveon, I could still lose this. But no para. Okay, nice. And Annihilape just gets another knockout. What a monster. I guess the question is, what could my opponent have even Terra'd throughout this game? Right? Volcarona on turn 1 didn't really have a great spot too. Sylveon Terraing here. I guess you could... The problem is if they Terra and then they go for, like, the... Terra Blast, then I can just Hydro Pump you for a KO if you're Fire Terra Sylveon. And if you're Water Terra Sylveon, I can Freeze Dry you. So it makes a lot of sense why they just didn't commit any Terras throughout that battle, because it felt like they never really had a super good position to. And part of it is because Rage Fist, like, that's one of the strengths of Rage Fist, right? So many players in the format will, like, often have a defensive Terra to get around, like, Steel-type attacks, for example, because Golden Go is so popular. But the reality is that, like, there actually aren't that many Pokemon that, with a Terra, can turn Rage Fist into an attack that's not super effective or be completely immune to, right? Like, it's not... Dark Terra would be like kind of the main one I would expect to see, but like obviously normal Terra is just not really that common unless you're using some like Boom Burst strategy, for example. There are some normal Terras like Dragonite, for example, and like Frigoraph, but overall like normal Terra isn't super common. And so like I think that's one of the reasons why Annihilape's really interesting, is because it takes advantage of the fact that a lot of defensive Terras still don't get around Rage Fist. And so I think part of it is in this game my opponent just never had a position to really take too much advantage of their Terras, hence why they just didn't go for it at all. Gyarados would have been the interesting one, but once again, like, Rage Fist is just kind of destroying everything. So, yeah. I don't think it's a coincidence that we had back-to-back games where it felt like our opponents just couldn't Terra, or just didn't Terra, because they probably were trying to find a good spot to do it. But in reality, once Annihilape just gets that, the beat-up combo off, it's so strong. Okay, we are up against Hard Trick Room here, which I'm glad to go up against because I was literally like, what is your name? The Flutter Mane has Imprison here. But that doesn't mean it's an auto win, because our opponents can get around it. I'm worried about probably Annihilape plus Indeedee lead. I almost want to go Maushold. Could also go Great Tusk. Normally, I would lead Arcanine plus the Flutter Mane, but basically, my fear is if I bring Arcanine and actually give a Defiant boost to the Annihilape, then it could Rage Fist into the into Flutter Mane for a knockout, which I really don't love, because I really need to get Imprison off. The debate is, I think, Maushold, Arcanine, or Great Tusk as a lead. Great Tusk is Focus Sash, so I'm most drawn to that, I think. In the back, we want Arcanine. It's probably not a game for bundle here. I think I just want maximum damage. Although you could make an argument for Maushold here. But yeah, Trick Room plus Imprison on Flutter Mane exists for this kind of matchup. That being said, it's still not that easy, because I don't know if my opponent's going to lead like Iron Hands, for example. And if you anticipate Trick Room plus Imprison on turn 1, you can just double up onto the Flutter Mane for a knockout, then Trick Room on the next turn. So part of this is, you know, do we have the element of surprise here? Does our opponent expect it? We go with Indeedee and Hatterene. Okay. I'm obviously at risk of taking a ton of damage here immediately. I would like to just Dazzling Gleam. Plus Headlong Rush. Ground Terra here is actually interesting to maximize damage output. I think it could be worth it to push the Temple in this one. I'm going to go for it. Terra, Headlong Rush, and DD. I did not click Imprison there. Part of it is like... Yeah, like a gamble that my opponent expects Imprison. Honestly, the main reason for that was because they're kind of high ranked. So I was thinking they might just like attack with Hatterene here. They didn't follow me. They did not Trick Room. Or sorry, they didn't switch or Terra. I don't know. Like, it would make sense, in my opinion, if Hatterene tried to Trick Room... Or sorry, tried to go for an attack on turn 1 here. I don't know if that bluff will really work, though. Nice. Oof. I know that seemed kind of wild, but yeah, like, now I'm going to click Imprison this turn. Dazzling did so much to Hatterene there. I just mainly don't know where the defensive Terras are right now. I'm down to Imprison, and I have Ice Spinner. Okay. It's funny because I talked such a big game about Imprison, but I don't know. My opponent was like really high ranked, and so I figured they'd play around Imprison, and they may have even seen this team. Okay, I'm gonna Imprison Protect here because I think Armor is probably defensively Terras, and I want to see what it Terras into. They might just click Expanding Force here, truthfully, and it's Grass Terra maybe. Okay, yeah. So then where do I go after this turn? I mean, the first question is whether or not they click Trick Room, right? I didn't Imprison on turn 1, so now they might be thinking, well, you don't have Imprison, I can't just set up Trick Room right now. And we seal Dazzling Gleam. Trick Room. Oh, that felt so mean. Okay, well, I can Shadow Ball Hatterene and Ice Spinner into Armor Rouge. That was nasty. But I think the scary thing is turn 1 is a complete gamble, right? And it's interesting, like, you know, the question of taking your opponent's ranking into account. Like, I actually decided I would in this game. Part of it is that this team being a ranked number 1 team, like, I wouldn't be surprised if my opponent's seen it. But, you know, it's kind of just like a pure hard read. And it worked out in my favor. But if Trick Room just went up on turn 1, I think I lose this. Well, I guess I do have Arcanine with the Salt Vest and Snarl in the back, right? And I wouldn't have taken any damage, so I think it was still salvageable, even if Trick Room went up. But now the game's obviously in a much better state. Yeah, we can just bring out Annihilape here, right? This game also still isn't 100% over, so I don't want to get ahead of myself. Okay, Torkoal's last one. Torkoal, Photosynthesis, Yummy Attack Boost. Yeah, I think I'm okay just clicking Protect with Annihilape here. And another Ice Spinner into Armor Rouge. Okay. Like, they can't Terra Torkoal, right? Nice. So with this, even if you knock out the Great Tusk, I bring Arcanine out and I just Snarl. But I think this game highlights, like, the scariness on turn 1, right? Because it just plays out so differently if Trick Room goes up. And I think, like, this team, naturally, by being in this video, like, people will have seen just a little bit more. And so they might expect Imprison. So when you're going up against these hard Trick Room teams, I think it really kind of comes down to turn 1. Arcanine in the end would have worked out okay as a lead for me, by the way, as well. But, yeah. They locked into Heat Wave, which is fine. Even with Choice Specs, I would expect to survive. And I have Snarl as well, so let's just get damage off. Drain Punch, Torkoal, Snarl, Torkoal. And end up forfeiting, yeah. Okay, it's funny because I came in with the game plan and I completely did not stick to that game plan, but it was 2 back-to-back perfect turns essentially. It worked out as well as I could have asked for it to, but yeah. It's a really volatile matchup in my opinion, so even though this one worked very much in my favor, it's not always going to look like that. But I think the main decision making you have to do in this matchup is, one, like figure out what to lead next to the Flutter Mane. Arcanine is normally really good because you have Snarl plus Imprison on turn 1, which I think is a really solid combo. The main problem here is my opponent had the Annihilape, so I really didn't love the idea of giving Annihilape a Defiant boost, and then allowing it to like Rage Fist into my Flutter Mane. So that was the main thing. So because I saw Annihilape in Team Preview, even though they didn't end up bringing it, I figured that was not the Pokemon I wanted to bring into the matchup. So remove that from the equation. Then it was the decision between Great Tusk or some of the other options, for example. But Tusk just made sense given the Focus Sash and the pure amount of like damage I could offer. So yeah, I don't think Trick Room matchups always look as smooth as it did in this one. I just was lucky enough to get a lot of calls right back to back to back. But yeah. Okay, Farigiraf. It's funny, I was talking about normal Terra options earlier. There's one here. Amoonguss, Palafin, Iron Hands, Arcanine, and Roaring Moon. It's interesting because it's not really a Trick Room team, but Farigiraf, Amoonguss, Iron Hands, Arcanine is totally a Trick Room core. I'm worried about Swords Dance for Belly Drum on Iron Hands. I don't know. The threat of Trick Room scares me enough to potentially lead. I mean, I could just go Maushold, Annihilate, beat up into Rage Fist, Amoonguss on turn 1. But then Farigiraf being normal just concerns me. Okay, I'm actually going to lead Flutter Mane with Maushold, because I can redirect Spores. Annihilate in the back. I mean, Arcanine's good for Intimidate here. Their team is almost entirely physically oriented, but like Bundle is actually really strong for damage. I think Arcanine's more consistent here, but I think you can make a great case for Bundle. Roaring Moon's okay here, but I don't love its matchup into Amoonguss. It also doesn't do that much. I mean, Headlong Rush is incredible into everything, so I shouldn't say it doesn't do that much. Yeah, it's mainly just like, I'm not sure it gives me the traits that I'm looking for in this battle. Farigiraf and Palafin. I'm definitely clicking Imprison here. The Prison Follow Me is kind of just a safe bet. I don't know. If I went Maushold Annihilape, I totally could have just gone Beat Up and Rage Fist into Palafin immediately. But okay, Palafin switches, yeah. Into Arcanine. Yeah, Annihilape would have been so strong. Let's see if they try to Trick Room here. Prison. Nicely done. They just Psyshock. Okay, great play. I'm gonna switch Flutter Mane out into Annihilape now and just go for Beat Up. I'm glad to feature this game, because it showcases how you can use Annihilape and Maushold when you're not just leading it. And then we'll be really well positioned for Rage Fists. My concern is dealing with late game Palafin at this point. I might want to consider a bulk up. There's Psyshock on the opposing end. So this turn, by the way, is actually a little bit risky, because they could Will-O-Wisp and Psyshock into Flutter Mane. Now I have Friend Guard, but I don't know. Follow Me here is actually probably the safer play. I just didn't want to Follow Me, let Maushold get KO'd, and then not really get any stacks up onto Annihilape. They did Flare Blitz into that slot, though. That might... If it's a double up with Psyshock, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. Well played. Well played. Oh. Yeah, I took a gamble there. I think it's a gamble that could be worth taking, but I don't think I was that far behind in this battle, so I'm not sure I actually needed to go for such a play. But basically, the logic there is, like, let's say they KO Maushold or they split their damage, then I get Annihilape, like, almost perfectly positioned, right? Because then I can just, like, Rage Fist into the Arcanine slot while going for Follow Me with Maushold. But that was a very nice play by their end. I didn't have Protect on Flutter Mane, so it was kind of hard to get around that, but I could have obviously, like, pivoted into Arcanine. The question is, how do I actually deal enough damage to win the game at this point? It's going to be really hard. Because Annihilape is such a core member of the team. So, yeah. That gamble is like, I don't know. It's just an overly risky play. I feel like the trade-off just really isn't worth it. I'm a little sad because I think Maushold and Annihilape against their lead actually would have totally worked out here. I would have just gone Steel Terra, beat up, and Rage Fist onto the Palafin slot. And yeah, I mean, I guess I could have switched into Roaring Moon, but let's try to just focus on winning the game ahead of us right now. I'm going to Shadow Ball Arcanine and... I guess I just Follow Me. I don't think I can do enough damage at this point is the problem. Also, Farigiraf with Psyshock, low-key, really good into what we have because I can't use any of my Ghost-type attacks. It's good damage. Yeah, they just Flare Blitz. Okay. Yeah. Man, like, Farigiraf's the first normal type we've run into today, and being immune to Rage Fist is actually such a big deal. Arcanine is Citrus, so heals back enough where Extreme Speed won't finish it off. And they Trick Room now. Well done! Oh, they played around me so well in this one. Like, they had Trick Room the whole time, didn't really go for it. I'd say they played a near-perfect game here. I think that should be... Well... my Arcanine's going to be faster than their Arcanine, but I don't think it really matters. We don't have any attack investment here. I'm trying to figure out a path to victory here. They should just double up on Flutter Mane. They know I have Trick Room, Imprison, and Shadow Ball. So I guess they could be worried about my last move being Protect, but... If you just double up onto... Oh, also they could have tried to Protect earlier to see once I had Imprison set up. So double up on a Flutter Mane guarantees them this game. If they don't double up for whatever reason, maybe there's a world in which I win by reversing Trick Room. I get Snarl off and then Dazzling Gleam Flare Blitz next turn for a double knockout. They actually switch Arcanine, so I guess I'm still in it for now. I mean, this should just be over, though. Like, they played this game so well. Iron Hands comes out. There's Psyshock. Okay, at least I reverse Trick Room and I can Moonblast next turn into Iron Hands. They actually have a guaranteed win if they... I mean, you can just fake out Arcanine Psyshock into Flutter Mane now, right? Terra Grass doesn't do anything for me. Yeah, I mean, Annihilape is just such a core piece of the team, and I didn't safely switch it in this one. What scenario can I win? They should just Psyshock Flutter Mane. I guess if for some reason they switch Iron Hands out, there's a chance. So I'm going to Dazzling Gleam and hope for like Flare Blitz crit. But yeah, they just find Fake Out. Yep, nicely done. I'm curious what they're answering to Maushold plus Citrus Berry. That's cool. Maushold and Annihilape was given their lead. It's probably to just utilize Iron Hands and Farigiraf under Trick Room, right? Man, Psyshock is so strong, though. Because, like, with Farigiraf, not all of them necessarily carried that. But I should expect it, obviously. This was just my opponent playing better than me. I don't regret the decision to not lead Maushold and Annihilape. I think I just needed to position a little bit safer. Really didn't... I really thought Amoonguss would come out over Palafin in this one. Was the main thing. And I think they did such a smart job, like, not setting up Trick Room immediately. Because they didn't click it on turn 1, right? They just went straight for Psyshock. And so they anticipated a potential Trick Room reversal there, right? Maybe I could have just started dealing damage on turn 1, but I don't know. I think if Trick Room goes up, it's pretty gnarly, especially without knowing what's in the back. Like, because the mode I was expecting was essentially, like, Farigiraf, Amoonguss, Iron Hands, and Arcanine. And Maushold Annihilape is still solid against that. I would have to Steel Terra Annihilape, though. So in a best of 3, I think if I were to adjust, yeah, I would considering just going with Maushold and Annihilape as the lead. But the main reason I didn't do that in this game was because I thought it was a little bit weak into Farigiraf. Yeah, and I also wasn't sure if they were going to go the Trick Room route. But that being said, I think, like, Maushold and Annihilape, like, they don't actually have enough pure offense to power through. So, like, turn 1 beat up into Rage Fist is actually just really safe, no matter what they do. Especially given their lead, we would have been able to just fully punish them. So, I think in this one, I was a little bit worried about Maushold plus Annihilape because I was like, oh, I need to, like, really deny Trick Room. But I actually don't think we need to, like, focus as hard on denying Trick Room, given, like, the amount of pure damage output that I had from that duel. So, yeah, that's the adjustment I would make in game 2. But my opponent played this so well, like, because I think this would look like a very different game if, for example, Annihilape didn't just go down on the switch in there. If it just survives the turn, we have so many powerful Rage Fists that we can just start throwing into our opponent's way as well. But yeah, the main thing here is because I didn't lead it, I was forced to kind of pivot in and switch it in. My opponent played around Trick Room in Prison by just side-shocking with the Farigiraf in the beginning and then doubling up onto the Flutter Mane, which then switched into Annihilape, put them into a really good spot. So Pokemon is one of those games where if you just have one turn, it can really be costly. And in this one, you know, I kind of thought the risk versus reward was worth it. In the end, for example, would have been better if I potentially... if I just went for Follow Me there. Although I think I probably faint there. I could have also switched an Arcanine that turn to get an Intimidate off and then go from there. But yeah, I think I kind of just saw like the combo pop off and I was like, oh, if my opponent like does not make the correct play here, I can punish them really heavily. But yeah, ultimately, like I was behind in this battle because I would say I got slightly outled, especially with Palafin applying a lot of early pressure. And so curious what their answer into Maushold plus Annihilape would have fully been. And I'm sure they have some. But in the end, yeah, like the Palafin scared away kind of the Flutter Mane. They positioned really well, and overall, I think they played a near perfect game. So kudos to them. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one. So thanks so much as always for joining me. If you enjoyed, I'd really appreciate if you consider leaving a like in the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.